AITA for refusing to let my sister move into my house after she destroyed our parents' home. So I, 32F, bought my own house 2 years ago after saving for nearly a decade. It's not huge or fancy, but it's mine. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, and a mortgage that I can handle comfortably. I live alone except for my dog. And honestly, this house is the first thing that's really felt like home to me since childhood. My younger sister, Emily, 27F, is a bit of a disaster. She's always been impulsive, entitled, and messy. Growing up, my parents babied her constantly. If she got a bad grade, it was the teacher's fault. If she crashed a family car, they replaced it so she could get to work. Meanwhile, I was expected to be the responsible one. I moved out at 18, worked full-time while studying, and never asked for help. Emily, on the other hand, moved in and out of our parents' house about 5 times in the last 7 years. She's never held a job longer than 6 months. My parents always let her come back just until she gets on her feet. The problem is, she never actually does. Earlier this year, our parents retired and decided to travel for a while. They planned to rent out their house to cover costs. Since Emily had been living there rent-free, they told her she needed to find her own place by the end of March. Predictably, she didn't. She complained that rent prices were too high, that landlords were exploitative, that she just needed a few more weeks. Then, while my parents were in Portugal, they got a call from the neighbors. Apparently, Emily had thrown a massive party, like over 50 people, and someone called the cops because of the noise. When my parents came back early, they found the house trashed. Carpets ruined, holes in the drywall, furniture broken, and a bunch of unpaid utility bills stacked on the counter. They were furious. They kicked Emily out immediately and told her she wasn't welcome there anymore. For the first time in my life, I saw them actually hold her accountable. Of course, that's when I got the call. Emily asked if she could stay with me just for a little while. She said she needed somewhere safe to regroup. I hesitated, but I told her no. I know how this goes. A few weeks turns into months. She doesn't contribute, doesn't clean, and leaves chaos everywhere she goes. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't risk my peace or my home. She started crying, saying I was abandoning her like everyone else, that I was lucky to have things figured out, and that family is supposed to help each other. I told her that family is also supposed to respect each other's boundaries. She hung up on me. The next day, I got a string of texts from my mom. At first, she was calm, asking if I could temporarily take Emily in while they sorted things out. I reminded her of the destruction Emily caused. My mom said, "She made a mistake, but she's your sister." I said, "Exactly, and that's why I'm saying no instead of calling the cops if she shows up here." That didn't go over well. My parents started guilt-tripping me about how Emily has nowhere else to go. I suggested maybe she try staying with one of her friends from all the parties she threw, but apparently, none of them have space. Then, last month, I came home from work and found Emily sitting on my front steps with 2 garbage bags of clothes. She said she had nowhere else to go and that she'd only stay until she got a job. I told her she couldn't stay. She started crying again, saying I was heartless. I offered to pay for a motel for a week and help her apply for jobs. She refused, saying I was trying to throw money at the problem instead of caring. She sat there for 2 hours. I didn't let her in. Eventually, she left, muttering that I'd regret turning my back on family. Since then, my parents have barely spoken to me. When they do, it's tense. My mom says I'm being cruel. My dad says he understands but wishes I'd shown more compassion. Emily's been couch hopping and apparently telling everyone that I let her become homeless. Some relatives have texted me saying I should have taken her in just for a bit. But here's the thing. I know what a bit means with Emily. It means she'll move in, not get a job, destroy my things, and guilt me every time I try to set boundaries. I worked too hard for this house to risk losing it, or my sanity. Still, part of me feels awful. She's my sister, and I know she's struggling. I could technically afford to let her stay, but I just don't want to. I can already imagine her leaving dishes everywhere, ignoring job applications, blasting music, and then acting like I'm the bad guy for wanting her out. Last week, my parents stopped by to talk. My mom said, "You've always been so independent. We thought you'd understand that not everyone can be like that. I told her independence isn't magic, it's hard work. My dad tried to play mediator, saying maybe we could set rules for Emily if she moved in. I asked if they'd ever successfully set rules for her. They looked at each other and changed the subject. Before they left, my mom said, "If you don't help her, she might end up on the street." I said, "If that happens, it's because of the choices she made, not because I refuse to clean up her mess." She didn't reply. Now it's been over a month, and things are still tense. My mom won't answer my calls, and Emily's been posting vague stuff online like, "Some people only care about you when you're successful." My aunt sent me a screenshot with the caption, "This is about you, right?" Part of me worries that I really am being too harsh. Maybe I could have let her stay under strict conditions, but I know she wouldn't follow them. Another part of me feels weirdly liberated, like I finally broke some generational pattern of enabling her. Still, every time I see her name pop up on social media or my parents' number on my phone, I feel guilty. I keep replaying her sitting on my steps crying. But I also keep picturing the ruined carpet, the holes in the wall, the way my parents looked when they came home to their wrecked house. I don't think I can go through that. Not again. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move in, even if it means she has nowhere else to go. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée use my wedding venue after they canceled theirs to save money. So I, 29F, am getting married in April next year to my fiancé, Daniel, 31M. We got engaged in 2023 and started planning the wedding right away because both of us are planners and wanted plenty of time to get everything organized and paid for. We booked a beautiful vineyard venue about an hour outside our city. It's one of those all-inclusive places that handles catering, decorations, even accommodation for some guests. It's not cheap, but it's stunning and exactly what we wanted. My younger brother, Ryan, 26M, got engaged to his fiancée, Chloe, 25F, earlier this year. Everyone was happy for them, though I'll admit Chloe and I don't get along super well. She's the kind of person who always has to make things a competition. If I mention something about my wedding, she immediately starts talking about how hers will be more unique or less overdone. I mostly let it roll off because whatever, I'm not marrying her. They originally planned to have their wedding in September next year, about 5 months after mine. They even booked a venue and put down a deposit. But 2 months ago, they started having financial issues. Ryan's job hours were cut, and Chloe was still paying off student loans. They decided to cancel their booking to save money and said they'd probably just do a courthouse wedding and a small dinner. Everyone was sympathetic. Weddings are expensive. Then last week, my mom called me and said Ryan and Chloe had an idea. Apparently, they wanted to use my wedding venue the day after my wedding. Their reasoning was that everything, decorations, flowers, setup, would already be there, so they could reuse everything and save thousands. They said it would be like a family wedding weekend and super efficient. I was honestly stunned. First of all, I'm paying for my wedding, not them. Second, the idea of sharing my venue and decor literally the day after my own wedding just felt incredibly uncomfortable. My wedding weekend was supposed to be my time. Plus, the contract with the venue clearly states that teardown and cleanup happen the day after, and we don't have the place booked for another event. When I told them this, Chloe said I could just extend the booking for a day, and they'd pay a small portion since the setup's already done. I told them no, firmly. I said it's my wedding, my venue, my money, and I don't want to share it. I also said I didn't appreciate being put in a position where saying no made me feel like a villain. Ryan said I was gatekeeping happiness, and that family should help family. I told him helping family doesn't mean giving away something that cost me tens of thousands of dollars and a year of planning. My mom called later, saying she thinks I should reconsider for the sake of family harmony. She said Ryan was heartbroken and Chloe was crying because she felt like I was excluding them. I said I'm not excluding anyone. They're literally invited to my wedding, but my venue isn't a community center they can just borrow. Mom said I'm being selfish and that it would be a beautiful gesture to let them celebrate love in the same place. Here's the part that makes me feel conflicted. A few days after that, Ryan texted me directly and said, if it's about money, Chloe's parents said they could give you $2,000 to cover the extra day, which, to be blunt, doesn't even begin to cover what another day would cost, let alone the potential damages or stress. But the tone of the message just annoyed me. It made it sound like they were doing me a favor. Well, I told Daniel about it. He was furious on my behalf. He said the whole idea was disrespectful and that Ryan and Chloe were trying to piggyback off our wedding to save themselves money and attention. He pointed out that if we agreed, we'd probably have to help coordinate, clean up faster, or even store decorations for them. He's right. It would completely ruin the relaxed weekend we were looking forward to after all the planning stress. Still, my mom and even my aunt are saying it would bring the family closer and be such a sweet story to tell one day. My dad, on the other hand, told me privately that he thinks Ryan and Chloe are being entitled and that I shouldn't cave. The situation has now blown up into a full-on family debate. Chloe apparently posted a vague Facebook status about how some people don't understand that love is about sharing, not selfishness. Several mutual friends liked it, and one even commented something like, "You deserve a dream day, too," which just made me angrier. I haven't responded publicly because I don't want to drag it online, but I did text her saying I didn't appreciate the passive-aggressive posts. She replied, "Sorry you took it that way. We're just disappointed you won't share something you don't even own permanently." That line made me lose it. I told her that I do own the experience I paid for and planned, and that my wedding isn't some interchangeable event they can copy and paste. She told me to stop being so dramatic and accused me of trying to make everything about myself. Now half my extended family thinks I'm being selfish, and the other half thinks Ryan and Chloe are being ridiculous. Daniel and I are sticking with our decision, but I can't lie. It's been awkward. Every family group chat turns into some version of, maybe you could compromise, or what's the big deal? I even started second-guessing myself. Maybe I'm being possessive. Maybe I should have at least offered to help them find a cheaper alternative. But then I think about walking into that vineyard the day after my wedding, knowing they're using all my decorations, my setup, maybe even my floral arch, and it just feels wrong. It would take away the uniqueness of what I've spent months creating. Chloe's latest suggestion, sent through my mom, of course, was that they could have a mini ceremony the morning after my wedding before teardown begins, and that we could turn it into a brunch celebration. My mom said it could be a new family tradition. I had to physically stop myself from laughing because, no, I'm not spending my first morning as a married woman hosting another wedding. Now Ryan isn't answering my calls. Chloe has unfriended me on social media, and my mom keeps asking if I really want this rift to last forever. Daniel says we should ignore them until they calm down, but I can't help wondering if I've somehow mishandled this. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée use my wedding venue the day after my own wedding, even though it would apparently save them a ton of money and bring the family together. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's child-free wedding, even though she made an exception for our cousin's kid. So I, 34F, have a 5-year-old son named Theo. He's my entire world. My sister, Jenna, 29F, got engaged last year to her fiancé, Mark, 31M. I've always been really close to Jenna. We grew up sharing everything, and even when she moved out, we talked almost every day. Naturally, I was thrilled when she asked me to be her maid of honor. When Jenna and Mark started planning their wedding, they decided on a child-free event. I totally understood at first. Weddings can be stressful and expensive, and not everyone wants kids running around. I told her that was fine and that I'd find childcare for Theo. Except there's a catch. Theo has mild sensory issues. He's not difficult, but sudden changes or new environments can be a little overwhelming for him. He's comfortable with my parents and my husband, but he doesn't do well with babysitters he doesn't know. I explained that to Jenna, and she said she'd think about it. Fast forward to a few months ago, and Jenna calls me, sounding awkward. She says she and Mark are making one small exception to the child-free rule. They're flower girl and ring bearer. Both happen to be kids of Mark's cousin. aged 7 and 9. They are part of the ceremony and will leave after dinner. I asked her if Theo could also come, even just for the ceremony, since he's my only child and her nephew. She immediately shut it down, saying, "If I make an exception for you, everyone will want to bring their kids." I said, "But you already made exceptions for 2 kids." She replied that it's different because those kids are part of the wedding. I reminded her that I'm her maid of honor and Theo is family. But she didn't budge. I let it go at first, figuring maybe she was stressed. I started helping her with decorations, organizing the bridal shower, and dealing with vendors. But the more time went on, the more the situation bothered me. Every time she talked about the wedding, I kept imagining those 2 kids walking down the aisle while mine wasn't allowed to even be there. A few weeks before the wedding, my mom told me Jenna had asked her to help keep me calm if I got upset about Theo not being invited. That really rubbed me the wrong way. I called Jenna and told her that it hurt me she didn't trust me to respect her wishes. She apologized, saying she just didn't want any drama. Then I found out from one of Jenna's bridesmaids that she'd arranged a special kids' table for those 2 kids and even had custom coloring books made for them. That's when I lost it. I called Jenna again and said, "So you're spending money on a kids' table, but my son can't even come?" She said, "It's not about you. It's about what Mark and I want for our day." I told her that if Theo wasn't welcome, then neither was I. She said she'd be heartbroken if I didn't come, but wasn't changing the rule. I told her I'd think about it, but honestly, my mind was made up. On the wedding day, I stayed home. I sent her a long message that morning wishing her happiness, telling her I loved her, but that I couldn't stand there celebrating when my own child was excluded for no good reason. She didn't reply until 2 days later. Her message was cold. She said she was disappointed in me, that I made her big day about myself, and that everyone asked where I was, making her look bad. My parents were split. My dad said he understood why I felt hurt, but my mom thought I should have just gone, saying it was one day and I could have sucked it up. Then things got worse. Jenna posted her wedding photos on Facebook, and in several of them, those kids were front and center, dancing, laughing, and clearly staying for the entire reception. One picture even had the caption, "Couldn't imagine the day without these 2." I didn't comment, but I guess someone noticed because a few relatives started asking why Theo wasn't there. Jenna got defensive and made a post about boundaries and people not respecting her choices. Now our relationship is basically non-existent. She won't return my texts, and she didn't come to Theo's birthday a few weeks ago. When my mom tried to talk to her, Jenna said she felt betrayed and that I punished her on purpose. I've started to wonder if maybe I did overreact. Maybe I should have just gone, smiled through it, and not made waves. I didn't want to ruin her wedding, but it feels like she chose appearances over family. Mark even texted me afterwards saying, "You really hurt Jenna," and that it wasn't about Theo, it was about keeping things simple. But excluding a 5-year-old while making exceptions for others doesn't feel simple. It feels personal. My husband is firmly on my side. He said, if they want a child-free wedding, fine. But once they made exceptions, they lost that moral high ground. He also said he was proud of me for standing up for Theo, but part of me wonders if I should have been the bigger person. It's been 6 months since the wedding, and we still haven't talked. Jenna sent me one short text. "Hope you and Theo are doing well." I replied, "You too," but that's it. I miss her terribly. My mom thinks if I just apologize, things will go back to normal. But what would I even apologize for? For not wanting my child to be treated like an inconvenience? Part of me keeps replaying the moment I decided not to go. I can picture her standing there, probably looking around for me, realizing I wasn't coming. I feel guilty, even though I still believe she was unfair. It's been eating at me lately because family gatherings are awkward now. People either avoid the topic or take sides. My aunt told me quietly that she thought Jenna was a bit controlling about the whole thing, but others say I ruined what should have been a perfect day. I'm stuck between feeling justified and ashamed. I didn't want to make a statement. I just didn't want to pretend I was okay with something that clearly wasn't fair. So, Reddit-style jury, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she wouldn't let my son come while making exceptions for other kids? AITA for refusing to give up my wedding date even though my sister got engaged after me and says she needs it? So this has turned into an absolute family nightmare, and I genuinely don't know if I'm being selfish or if my sister has lost the plot. I, 29F, got engaged to my fiancé, Evan, 31M, in May 2023. We were together for 4 years, and our engagement was something both families have been expecting for a while. The moment it happened, we told our parents, and everyone was thrilled, especially my mom, who started immediately talking about dresses and flowers. We decided to have a long engagement, partly for budgeting and partly because we wanted to secure a venue we loved. After touring a few places, we fell in love with a restored vineyard about 45 minutes from our city. It's stunning, outdoor ceremony space, an old barn for the reception, and a small on-site inn for family to stay overnight. It books up quickly, so we had to pick a date over a year in advance. The only available Saturdays during the season we wanted were April 12th and April 19th, 2025. We chose April 12th. Deposit paid. Venue secured. We even sent out save the dates this past summer. Everyone knew, friends, family, co-workers. Then in August 2024, my younger sister Emma, 26F, got engaged to her boyfriend of just over a year, Liam. I was thrilled for her at first, but things started to feel competitive almost immediately. She announced her engagement in a way that made my parents uncomfortable, like she showed up to a family dinner I was hosting for our grandparents with her ring and said she had big news. I congratulated her, of course, but she made a few passive-aggressive jokes like, "I guess we'll see who makes the prettier bride." I ignored it. I figured she was excited. Fast forward a few weeks, and my mom calls me saying Emma and Liam were having trouble finding a wedding venue for the date they wanted. Apparently, Emma wanted to get married in spring 2025 too, same season as me. Mom asked if I'd consider moving mine back a bit so Emma could have April 12th because she had her heart set on that weekend. I thought it was a joke. I laughed and said, "Mom, we've already paid deposits, sent save the dates, booked vendors. It's literally our date." She said, "I know, honey, but Emma's been really upset. She says that weekend has special meaning because it's the anniversary of the day she met Liam." I told her that was unfortunate timing, but I wasn't changing my date. End of discussion. Except it wasn't. 2 days later, Emma called me sobbing, saying I was ruining her dream wedding because the vibe of the vineyard and that date were meant for her. I calmly told her I'd had the date first, and it wasn't my fault her dream wedding happened to be identical to mine. She called me selfish and hung up. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. My mom started hinting that maybe it would be easier for me to reschedule since I had booked so early. My dad, who normally stays out of these things, said, "It's your day, but maybe you could compromise and move it 1 week later." I told them both absolutely not. I'm not tearing up my plans, deposits, and timeline because my sister didn't plan ahead. Then came the real kicker. Emma sent a group text to our family that basically said she and Liam had decided to book April 12th at a different venue in the same area, just 30 minutes away. She said she wasn't going to let anyone stop her from having the day that meant something to her. So now my sister and I have weddings on the same day. Our extended family and mutual friends are freaking out because they feel forced to choose which one to attend. Emma accused me of creating this situation by refusing to move first. The group chat turned into chaos. My aunt told Emma she was being ridiculous. My cousin said it's honestly kind of psycho to plan your wedding on your sister's date. Emma replied that I don't own April 12th and that the world doesn't revolve around me. My mom keeps insisting she's trying to stay neutral, but she also told me privately that Emma's feelings are coming from a place of hurt. Apparently, she thinks Emma's insecure because I've always been the responsible one who gets things first, and this is her way of feeling equal. Now, my parents are talking about splitting time between the two weddings, ceremony at mine, reception at hers, or vice versa, which is insane. I told them that if they can't fully commit to being present at mine, they might as well not come at all. My dad got mad and said I was making them choose between their children. Last weekend, my fiancé and I went out for dinner with a few of his friends, and even they said the situation sounds like something out of a movie. One of them said, "Dude, if you cave now, she'll think she can walk all over you both forever." Which honestly hit me hard, because Emma has always gotten her way by making drama, until someone gives in. My mom called again yesterday, asking me to reconsider because Emma has been so distraught she can't sleep. I told her flat out that the only thing that's keeping this issue alive is everyone entertaining Emma's fantasy that this is somehow my problem to fix. My mom sighed and said she didn't raise me to be so cold. Now half my family isn't talking to me, and the other half is furious at Emma. My fiancé thinks we should just ignore it and focus on our own wedding, but I feel like the whole thing has been poisoned. I keep picturing my guests getting texts from Emma saying, "Hey, come to mine instead. It'll be more fun." Last night, I got a message from Emma saying she's officially cutting me off until I learn to put family before ego. She also posted some cryptic Instagram story about toxic sisters that my aunt sent me screenshots of. At this point, I'm exhausted. My fiancé says we can't control what she does, but I can't shake the feeling that everyone will remember this as the time I refuse to compromise. So, AITA for refusing to give up my wedding date, even though my sister says it's ruining her special day. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my house temporarily after I found out what he said about me behind my back. I, 29F, own a small 3-bedroom house that I bought 3 years ago. It's nothing fancy, but I'm really proud of it. I work 2 jobs and save for years to afford the down payment. I live alone with my dog, but I have a spare room that I sometimes rent out to friends or coworkers short-term when they need a place. My younger sister, Emily, 26F, has always been close to me, though we've had the usual sibling fights. She's outgoing and fun, but also tends to expect things to work out for her without much planning. Emily got engaged earlier this year to a guy named Tyler, 28M. At first, he seemed nice, charming, funny, a bit cocky but not in an awful way. We'd hang out occasionally when Emily brought him to family dinners or barbecues. But over time, I started noticing little red flags. He'd make backhanded comments like, "Wow, you really bought this house on your own? Must be nice not having to pay rent to anyone," or, "I guess being single means you've got extra money to spend." Stuff that came off as jokes but felt like digs. Anyway, about 2 months ago, Emily called me in a panic. She and Tyler had signed a lease on a new apartment, but the building had delays with renovations, and their move-in date got pushed back by at least 2 months. They had already given notice to their old landlord, so they were basically going to be homeless. Emily asked if they could crash with me for just 6 weeks, maybe 8 max. I hesitated, but I didn't want my sister to struggle. I told her I'd think about it and that I needed to make sure it wouldn't disrupt my work. I work from home and need quiet. She seemed understanding. That weekend, I hosted a family barbecue, and that's where things went sideways. During the barbecue, I overheard Tyler talking to my cousin near the patio. He didn't realize I was behind a screen door grabbing drinks. My cousin asked him how things were going with the apartment delay, and Tyler laughed and said, "Oh, it's fine. We'll just stay at her sister's place. She's got that house she never shuts up about. Free rent, free food. I'll just charm her into it." Then he said, "She's the type who loves feeling needed. You just gotta stroke her ego a little." My stomach dropped. I didn't confront him right then because I didn't want to make a scene in front of everyone, but I was furious. Later that night, I texted Emily and told her I'd changed my mind and that I wasn't comfortable having them stay here. I said I could help her find an affordable short-term rental or even help her pay for a motel if needed, but I wasn't opening my home. She immediately called me, screaming that I was heartless and vindictive. I tried to explain what I'd heard, but she accused me of twisting his words. She said Tyler was just joking and that I always look for reasons to dislike him. Then she hung up on me. The next day, my mom called and said Emily was crying, claiming I'd kicked them to the curb. I told my mom what I'd overheard. She sighed and said, "You know how men joke, honey. Don't take it personally." She also pointed out that Emily had nowhere else to go and that family should help family. My dad was a bit more on my side, but said, maybe let them stay just a few weeks. It's temporary. I held firm and said no. Emily blew up my phone with texts calling me selfish, a control freak, and jealous. She said I was punishing her for being in a relationship and that I wanted to watch her struggle. I eventually blocked her for a week just to get peace. Then, about a month later, I found out from my cousin, the same one who'd been at the barbecue, that Tyler had apparently been telling people that I was crazy and had a crush on him. He said that was why I didn't want them moving in, because I was afraid of temptation. My cousin told me because he thought it was messed up and wanted to warn me. I saw red. I unblocked Emily and texted her screenshots of Tyler's quotes from my cousin. She didn't respond right away, but later she messaged saying I'd ruined her engagement because she confronted Tyler, and he flipped it on her, saying I was lying. Then she told me she didn't know who to believe. We haven't really spoken since. My mom is begging me to apologize, just to smooth things over, but I told her I wasn't apologizing for setting a boundary, especially after being insulted and lied about. Last week, Emily texted me again, this time saying she and Tyler are taking a break, and that she's been staying with a friend. She said, "I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted." I feel awful that she's hurting, but at the same time, I don't think I caused this. Tyler's the one who said and did awful things. Still, part of me wonders if I should have just let them stay. It would have been uncomfortable, but maybe things wouldn't have escalated this much. My dad says I could have avoided a family meltdown if I'd just been the bigger person. Now half of my family barely talks to me. My aunt told me at a recent gathering that I broke my sister's heart over gossip. My mom keeps saying, "He's just a guy. Sister should come first." But honestly, after hearing the way he talked about me, I don't think I could ever be comfortable around him again. To make things worse, Emily recently posted some cryptic things on social media about betrayal by those closest to you, and I know she's talking about me. Mutual friends have been asking what happened, and I've been trying not to air the drama, but word is spreading that I ruined her relationship. It's gotten to the point where I'm considering moving cities just to start fresh. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to protect my peace and not have someone in my home who disrespected me. But now I'm questioning whether my decision was too harsh or if I should have handled it differently. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her fiancé move in after hearing what he said about me, even though it led to this whole family mess. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore after she ruined my wedding dress to make a princess costume for her daughter. So this has blown up in my family, and I honestly don't know if I'm being too harsh. 29F, got married about 3 months ago. It was a small but beautiful ceremony, nothing over the top, but my dress was my dream dress. I saved for nearly 2 years to buy it. A vintage-style gown with hand-stitched lace that reminded me of my late grandmother's wedding photos. It wasn't insanely expensive by bridal standards, but it was special to me. I kept it preserved and plan to maybe pass it down someday. My sister, Jess, 33F, has 2 kids, Lila, 6, and Max, 4. Jess has always been the chaotic creative type, and I love her, but she's also incredibly impulsive. She's been a single mom for about a year now after her ex-husband left, so I've tried to help whenever I can, babysitting, buying groceries when she's short, etc. I genuinely care about my niece and nephew, but Jess can sometimes take advantage of my kindness. A few weeks ago, she called me in tears because she had an urgent work meeting and her sitter canceled. I was working from home that day, so I agreed to watch the kids. They were fine, energetic but sweet. Lila has been obsessed with princesses lately, and during lunch, she kept talking about wanting a real princess dress like Annie had at her wedding. It was cute. I told her maybe we could look for some shiny fabric and make one together sometime. Fast forward to last weekend. Jess asked me again if I could babysit because she wanted to have a break and go out with friends. I told her I was really busy cleaning and unpacking things from the wedding. Yes, still, it's been slow, and reorganizing my closet. She got a little pushy, saying, "You always have time for everyone else. Why not your family?" I said I just needed a quiet weekend to myself. The next morning, I got a text from her saying she was dropping something off. I assumed maybe she was returning the slow cooker she borrowed. I was in the shower when she came by, and when I got out, I found her car gone, but noticed my bedroom door slightly open. I didn't think much of it until later that afternoon when I went to move some things into my closet. My wedding dress was gone. Panic set in immediately. I called Jess, and she didn't answer. Texted her, no response. About an hour later, she called back sounding casual, and when I asked about the dress, she said, "Oh, don't freak out. Lila wanted to play princess, and you said you'd help her make a dress." I I thought it'd be perfect for a costume party tomorrow. I just needed to take it to the tailor for a quick fit. I was silent for a full 10 seconds before asking if she was joking. She said, "Relax. It's just a dress. You're married now. You'll never wear it again." I drove straight to her house. The dress wasn't there. She told me she'd already cut the itchy parts off because Lila hated how long and heavy it was. I thought I misheard her. When she showed me what was left, I nearly cried. The lace bodice was completely destroyed, the bottom half unevenly chopped, and there were hot glue stains on what remained. She'd literally hacked it apart with scissors to glue plastic jewels on it. I lost it. I yelled, asking how she could possibly think it was okay to destroy something so personal and sentimental. She started crying and said she was under so much stress that she thought she was doing something sweet for Lila, and that I always make everything about myself. She said it was just a dress, and I was being materialistic. I left before I said something I'd regret. The next day, I texted her that I wouldn't be babysitting for her anymore and that she owed me the cost of the dress, which was around $1,400, not including the preservation. She called me cruel, said I was abandoning her when she needed family the most, and that Lila was devastated because she got in trouble for loving Auntie's dress. My parents got involved. Mom thinks I'm being petty and that it's just fabric, especially since Jess is struggling. Dad, however, quietly told me he agrees with me, but won't get in the middle. My friends are split. Some say I have every right to be furious. Others think I should just let it go because you can't uncut a dress. To make things worse, Jess posted some passive-aggressive Facebook status about people caring more about stuff than family, and how some sisters never grow out of being princesses themselves. A few relatives have reached out telling me to forgive her for the kids' sake. I honestly don't think I can. It's not even just about the dress anymore. It's about the entitlement. She broke into my room without asking, stole something deeply meaningful, destroyed it, and still expects me to be her free babysitter afterward. I feel horrible for Lila and Max because none of this is their fault, but I can't keep enabling Jess's behavior. She sent me one last text saying I was punishing her kids because of a misunderstanding. I replied that this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was theft and destruction of property. She hasn't spoken to me since, though Mom keeps dropping hints about how the holidays will be awkward if I don't apologize. Part of me wonders if I overreacted by cutting her off so completely. I know she's overwhelmed as a single mom and doesn't have much help. But another part of me keeps picturing that shredded dress covered in glue and rhinestones and thinking about how little she respected my boundaries or my things. Now I'm stuck wondering, am I the asshole for refusing to babysit or have contact with her until she at least acknowledges what she did and replaces the cost of the dress? Because from where I'm standing, she broke into my home, ruined something precious, refused to apologize, and somehow made herself the victim. But every time someone in the family brings it up, they make me feel like I'm being cold-hearted or unforgiving. Maybe I should just accept that the dress is gone and move on. But then again, if I forgive this, what's next? If she decided she wanted to cut up my wedding photos for art, would that also be fine because she's having a hard time? So, Reddit-style jury of strangers. AITA for refusing to babysit or reconcile until she makes it right. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my husband? This is going to be long, so buckle up. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 29F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, Emily was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I was more independent and outspoken, which often clashed with her perfectionist tendencies. I learned early on that standing up for myself around her sometimes led to her holding grudges for weeks. Fast forward to adulthood. I got married 2 years ago to my husband, Matt, 34M. He's great, kind, funny, incredibly patient, and he loves me unconditionally. He's also not great at dealing with people who are passive-aggressive or manipulative, which has caused friction with some of my family members. Emily, unsurprisingly, falls into that category. Emily got engaged about a year ago and immediately began planning her wedding like it was a production for a magazine. I was genuinely happy for her and even offered to help with some of the planning since she lives out of state. That's where things started to go sideways. The first red flag was when she told me she didn't want Matt to be involved in any of the planning. Her reasoning was that he didn't understand style and would ruin the aesthetic. At first, I laughed it off, thinking she was joking, but she was completely serious. I told her that while I could help, I wouldn't ask Matt to sit out entirely, since it's my wedding etiquette to include spouses. She brushed me off and said she'd think about it. Things escalated when she invited us to her engagement party. Matt arrived, and within 5 minutes, Emily made a comment about how he looked uncomfortable and subtly suggested he didn't know how to act around people like her friends. She spent the rest of the night making snide remarks, like loudly correcting him when he mispronounced someone's name or commenting on his drink choices. I tried to defend him gently, but she brushed me off and rolled her eyes. Over the next few months, every interaction with Emily involved passive-aggressive comments aimed at Matt. She'd post about her wedding on social media with captions that implied people around her were embarrassingly clueless without directly naming anyone, but it was obvious who she meant. She even tried to guilt me into not wearing certain outfits at her bridal shower because, according to her, it didn't match the vibe she wanted. The breaking point came when she sent out her official wedding invites. Alongside the invitation, she included a separate note for me, specifically stating that Matt was not invited to pre-wedding events and that he should respect the bride's wishes. I was stunned. I tried to talk to her about it, asking why she was singling out my husband and explaining that it felt humiliating and unfair. She told me that Matt was too much work and would probably embarrass her in front of the guests. I was furious. I considered just attending alone, but Matt told me he didn't feel comfortable going where he wasn't welcome, and honestly, I agreed. I decided to decline the invitation entirely. I wrote her a message explaining that while I loved her and wanted to celebrate her big day, I couldn't attend a wedding where my husband was excluded and treated with disrespect. I tried to make it clear that this was about maintaining boundaries and self-respect, not about punishing her. The fallout was immediate. Emily called me hysterical, accusing me of ruining her wedding and choosing Matt over family. Our parents got involved and told me I was being dramatic and too sensitive. My friends all supported me, saying that no one should have to tolerate being treated like that, especially on a day that's supposed to celebrate love and family. Emily didn't speak to me for a month, then sent a group text to our extended family painting me as the villain, saying I couldn't put aside petty grievances for my sister's special day. She even implied that Matt was toxic and that I was letting him control my decisions. The worst part is that some relatives have started avoiding us at family events, assuming I overreacted. I'm torn because part of me feels guilty for not showing up, especially since weddings are such a big deal, and I know she dreamed about it for years. But another part of me knows that attending under those conditions would have humiliated Matt and validated her behavior. I also can't shake the feeling that this isn't just about the wedding. It's part of a pattern where she undermines people she sees as threats to her perfect image. After the wedding, I received a few texts from Emily apologizing vaguely, but also saying she can't believe I let Matt come between us, and maybe one day you'll understand. I haven't responded. My parents are still frustrated, and family dynamics are tense. Matt feels awful that this is affecting me, and I'm upset that our relationship with my sister has deteriorated so dramatically over something that seems so trivial to her. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my husband. I feel like I'm standing up for my marriage, but everyone else is acting like I overreacted. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's re-wedding because she wants to redo the entire thing after her divorce. So, for context, my sister Lily, 32F, got married 6 years ago to her college sweetheart, Mark. 29F, was her maid of honor, and it was a huge event. My parents spent a small fortune, probably close to $40,000, because Lily wanted everything to be perfect. Destination venue, designer dress, catered dinner, open bar, live band, custom photo booth, the works. Unfortunately, her marriage didn't last. Mark turned out to be, well, not great. He cheated, gaslit her, and left her for a co-worker 2 years ago. The divorce was messy and painful, and I completely supported Lily through it. She moved back in with our parents for a while, got therapy, and honestly, I was proud of how she pulled herself together. Fast forward to now. Lily has been dating a new guy, Jason, 35M, for about a year and a half. He's genuinely nice, responsible, treats her well, and we all like him. Last month, they got engaged, which everyone was thrilled about. But then, Lily started talking about having a re-wedding. At first, I thought she meant just another wedding, but she clarified she literally wants to recreate her first wedding. Same venue, same color scheme, same dress designer, same bridesmaid lineup, same playlist. Even the same vows, which she says she'll slightly edit. She calls it her do-over day, and apparently, she wants to heal her past trauma by reclaiming her wedding as a positive memory. I honestly thought it was a joke until she sent us a Google Doc labeled Lily and Jason Re-Wedding Planning Notes. It included all the details in a section called Attire Expectations, where she listed the colors each bridesmaid is supposed to wear, exactly like last time. She wants me to be maid of honor again, and even asked if I could deliver the same speech, just with Jason's name. I told her I wasn't comfortable doing that. I said I'd be honored to stand by her for her new marriage, but it feels weird and almost disrespectful to her, to Jason, and even to Mark's memory in a strange way, to copy the first wedding like that. It's like trying to erase history instead of moving forward. She got upset and accused me of not understanding healing rituals. She said it's not about Mark, it's about her finally having the wedding she should have had. I suggested maybe they do a smaller ceremony or something symbolic, like a beach vow renewal, but she said no, this is what she wants. A few days later, she called me crying, saying she felt betrayed, that I wouldn't support her emotional rebirth. My mom took her side and said I should just go along with it, because Lily deserves happiness after everything she's been through. Dad is staying neutral, but I can tell he's quietly dreading the idea of paying for another massive wedding. Then things escalated. Lily sent out save-the-date cards, calling it the re-wedding, a celebration of second chances. The invites actually say formal attire required, identical to previous wedding if possible. Like, she literally wants guests to recreate their old looks. When I texted her that I wasn't comfortable participating in what feels like an elaborate cosplay of her first marriage, she exploded. She said I was trying to make her feel ashamed for wanting to reclaim her narrative and told me I was negative energy. She uninvited me from her bridal shower, but told me I could come around later when I stopped being judgmental. Jason texted me separately and apologized, saying he knows it's weird but that it's important to her. He said he's just going along with it because it's easier than fighting. I actually feel bad for him. He's sweet, but I can't imagine how it feels to be marrying someone who's repurposing her old wedding playbook. Now my mom keeps calling me selfish and telling me I'm making Lily's mental health worse by withholding support. But honestly, I feel like supporting this is enabling something that isn't healthy. It's like she's trying to overwrite the past instead of healing from it. I told Mom and Lily that I love her, and I'll happily attend to the guest if she wants to celebrate her marriage to Jason, but I won't be part of a literal rerun. Lily said that's not supportive enough and accused me of weaponizing normalcy. My boyfriend thinks I'm doing the right thing, and that Lily's plan sounds like something a therapist should be unpacking, not acting out with 150 guests and a $30,000 budget. But Mom is giving me the silent treatment now, and my aunts are whispering that I'm jealous or bitter. I'm not. I'm genuinely happy for her, but this whole thing feels unsettling. For added context, here are a few of the re-wedding details that push me over the edge. She's hiring the same photographer she used before. She wants everyone to pose in the same group shots to see the difference 6 years later. She plans to walk down the aisle to the same song, A Thousand Years, because she didn't get to enjoy it the first time. She's even using the same hashtag from her first wedding, just adding 2.0 at the end. When I brought up that this might make Jason feel like a replacement, she got defensive and said, "He knows he's the upgrade version." I tried to approach this gently, but every time I question anything, she acts like I'm attacking her healing process. At this point, I've decided not to go. I told her I'll send a gift and wish her well, but I can't emotionally participate in what feels like an elaborate performance of denial. Now half my family thinks I'm heartless, and Lily has been posting vague things online about family who can't celebrate your happiness. My mom texted me last night saying, "You'll regret not standing by your sister when she needed you most." But honestly, I feel like standing by her would mean gently helping her face reality, not pretending her first marriage never existed. So now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's re-wedding because she wants to redo her first one exactly? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for not letting my sister move back in after she ruined my wedding and tried to expose my husband. I, 29F, got married this past May to my husband, 31M, and my older sister, Lena, 33F, wasn't just my maid of honor. She used to be my best friend. We've always had that kind of sibling relationship where we fought a lot as kids, but grew close as adults. Or at least I thought we did. We grew up in a small town, just the two of us and our single mom. Lena has always been the big personality between us, loud, funny, and charismatic. People love her instantly. I was the quieter one, the responsible sister who paid bills on time and didn't make waves. It never really bothered me until it started affecting my relationships. Lena's charm had a way of bleeding into every corner of my life. In high school, she dated one of my crushes after I told her I liked him. In college, she crashed in my dorm for weeks, and my roommates adored her more than me. It's like she had this gravitational pull that sucked the air out of every room. Still, I kept making excuses for her. When I met my now husband, Nathan, years ago, I was nervous about introducing him to Lena. He's calm, grounded, and not the type who falls for drama. But of course, when they met, Lena turned on her charm. She joked, teased him, called him Mr. Perfect, and even flirted a little. I brushed it off because that's just how she is. Nathan never encouraged it and always made me feel secure, but it still made me uncomfortable. Fast forward to our wedding planning. Lena offered to help because I know how you get stressed, which, in Lena language, meant she wanted to take control. She questioned every decision. My dress was too simple. My color palette was boring, and she constantly suggested we make things more fun. I kept politely declining her ideas, but she'd guilt-trip me for not appreciating her efforts. 2 months before the wedding, Lena called me crying, saying her boyfriend had broken up with her and she couldn't afford her rent. I told her she could move in with Nathan and me for a few months until she got back on her feet. Nathan agreed, though I could tell he was hesitant. At first, it wasn't terrible. She cooked sometimes, helped clean, and seemed genuinely grateful. But then she started crossing lines. She'd come into our bedroom without knocking, wearing barely anything. She made comments like, "Wow, Nathan, you smell so good," or, "You're lucky my sister got you first." I told her it made me uncomfortable. She laughed it off, saying I was being insecure. Nathan started working late, and Lena made snide jokes about him having a secret family. I asked her to cut it out, but she always turned things into a joke. I was starting to get the feeling that she was jealous. Then came the wedding day. Everything was going beautifully until the reception. Just as Nathan and I were finishing our first dance, Lena stood up with a microphone. She said she had something important to share and that she owed it to me to be honest. My stomach dropped. In front of 120 guests, she claimed that Nathan had been inappropriate with her while she lived with us. She said he flirted, touched her hand, and made her uncomfortable. There was total silence. I looked at Nathan, who was pale and shaking his head. He said, "That's not true," but Lena started crying and said, "You don't have to lie anymore." The room was chaos. My mom rushed to comfort Lena while my dad, divorced from my mom, pulled me aside asking what was going on. Nathan's parents looked horrified. I was so stunned I couldn't even process it. The night ended in total disaster. The next morning, I confronted Lena. She doubled down, saying she couldn't let me marry a man like that. I demanded evidence. She said she didn't have proof, but that she felt something was off. I called her out for lying. She burst into tears, saying I always chose men over her, and that she was trying to protect me. That was it. I told her to get out of my house immediately. Nathan and I spent our honeymoon trying to recover from the humiliation. A week later, my mom called saying Lena admitted she might have exaggerated. Turns out, after she moved out, she told a mutual friend that she had made it up because she couldn't stand how perfect everything was for me. She apparently thought Nathan looked at her too long once, and that was enough for her to spin a story. Even with that admission, my mom keeps pushing me to forgive Lena because family is family. She says Lena's mental health has been bad, and she's going through a lot. She recently lost her job and is asking if she can move back in temporarily because she has nowhere to go. Nathan is absolutely against it. He said if she comes back, he'll move out. I told my mom no, and now she's furious, saying I'm heartless for abandoning my sister when she's struggling. I told her Lena didn't just make a mistake. She destroyed our wedding day and tried to ruin my marriage. Now my whole family is split. My mom and a few relatives are saying I'm cruel for holding a grudge. My dad is on my side, saying Lena needs consequences. Lena texted me a long apology last week, saying she was jealous and didn't know why she said what she did. She begged for a second chance. I haven't replied. Part of me still can't believe she could do something like that. This was my sister, the person who was supposed to stand beside me on one of the most important days of my life. And she used that moment to humiliate me. My therapist says I need to establish firm boundaries, but it's hard when my mom calls me crying, saying Lena might end up homeless if I don't take her in. I feel torn between protecting my marriage and not being the cold sister who let family suffer. Nathan told me, you can have compassion without reopening the door. He's right. I just don't know if refusing to help her now makes me the villain in my family's eyes, or if it's finally me learning to stand up for myself after years of letting Lena walk all over me. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she ruined my wedding and tried to expose my husband. AITA for refusing to take in my brother and his pregnant girlfriend after they got evicted, even though I have plenty of space. I'm a 35-year-old woman, married to my husband, 36M, for 7 years. We don't have kids, but we've built a comfortable life together. We both work full-time and bought a 4-bedroom house about 3 years ago. We turned one room into a guest room, one into an office, and one into a hobby room for my husband's woodworking. The last is, obviously, our bedroom. It's not a mansion, but it's spacious, and we worked really hard to get to this point. My younger brother, 29M, let's call him Matt, has always been, well, the creative, free spirit of the family. He's bounced between jobs, roommates, and various projects that never seem to go anywhere. He's charismatic, funny, and genuinely a kind person, but incredibly unreliable. He's been dating his girlfriend, Kayla, 27F, for about a year. She got pregnant recently, and they decided to move in together in a small apartment. They were living paycheck to paycheck, but according to them, love would make it work. Last month, I got a call from Matt saying they'd been evicted. Apparently, they hadn't paid rent in 2 months because Matt quit his job to focus on starting his YouTube channel, and Kayla had to leave hers after some complications in her pregnancy. He sounded genuinely desperate. He said, "We have nowhere else to go. I know you have space, just until we get back on our feet." I told him I need to talk to my husband first. When I brought it up, my husband looked at me like I just asked if we could adopt a raccoon. He said, "Absolutely not. I'm sorry, but your brother is irresponsible, and we both know how this will go." He reminded me that the last time Matt stayed with us for a few weeks, it turned into nearly 6 months, during which he never helped with bills, left dirty dishes everywhere, and once borrowed my husband's tools without asking, then sold one to cover a gig expense. I still felt guilty, though. I'm the older sister. My parents are retired and live in a small condo, and our extended family isn't close. If I didn't help him, who would? But I also couldn't ignore my husband's feelings. So I called Matt back and told him no. I offered to lend them $1,000 to cover a deposit on a new place or temporary motel stay, but made it clear they couldn't move in with us. He went quiet for a moment and then said, "You're seriously turning away your own brother? I'm about to be a dad, and you're worried about your stupid woodworking room?" I told him it wasn't about the space. It was about boundaries and the fact that I didn't trust him to contribute or leave when he said he would. He hung up on me. The next day, my mom called, crying. She said Matt told her I'd abandoned him and his pregnant girlfriend, and that I was hoarding rooms in my house while family suffered. She said, "You've always been the responsible one. You can handle it for a while, right?" When I said no, she got cold and said, "One day you'll need help, and I hope people don't turn their backs on you." For the next week, Matt spammed my phone with guilt trips. He sent photos of Kayla sitting on their packed boxes, saying things like, "She's crying again because she doesn't know where we'll sleep." Then, a few days later, he texted, "Don't worry, we figured it out." Some people actually have compassion. That stung more than I'd like to admit. I didn't reply. Fast forward 2 weeks. I found out through Facebook, because of course he posted about it, that they were staying with a mutual friend, someone Matt used to work with. The caption on his photo read, "Real friends don't turn their backs on family." The comments were full of sympathy and a few pointed digs at selfish people. It's been about a month since then, and now the mutual friend reached out to me privately. She said she can't handle them anymore. Matt hasn't found a job, spends all day on his computer editing videos, and Kayla's morning sickness has gotten worse, so she's been missing work-from-home shifts. They're behind on rent again. The friend asked if I could take over since I seemed to have the resources. I told her I was sorry, but no. Then I got another call from Matt. He was furious. He accused me of ruining his life, because apparently his girlfriend's parents also refused to take them in after hearing they'd already been evicted once. He said, "If we end up homeless, it's on you." That was the final straw. I told him he's 29, not 9, and that his choices have consequences. I told him I loved him, but I'm not responsible for fixing his life every time he messes up. He shouted something about how I think I'm better than everyone now that I have a house, and then hung up again. My mom's been giving me the cold shoulder ever since. She sent me a short text last week saying, "I hope you're proud of yourself," after learning Matt and Kayla moved into a cheap extended stay motel. Meanwhile, my husband says I did the right thing, but he can tell it's eating me up. I can't stop thinking about it, especially knowing there's a baby involved. Part of me wonders if I'm just rationalizing my guilt behind the word boundaries. I could have made it work, set a time limit, made them pay a small amount of rent, something. But the other part of me knows they would have stayed indefinitely, and I would have ended up resenting them deeply. The weirdest part? My dad actually agrees with me, but won't say so publicly because he doesn't want to cause more drama with Mom. He told me privately, "You can't save someone who refuses to help themselves." I appreciated it, but it doesn't stop the guilt. Now my brother hasn't spoken to me in over a month. My mom barely texts me except to send passive-aggressive Bible quotes about generosity and family. My husband keeps saying they'll either figure it out or they won't, but that's not your burden to carry. I want to believe that, but every time I see baby stuff in stores, I feel this deep pit in my stomach. What if the baby suffers because I wouldn't open my door? What if I become the cold, self-centered person my family thinks I am? So, Reddit. AITA for refusing to take in my brother and his pregnant girlfriend when I clearly had the space to help. AITA for refusing to give my sister my wedding dress after she ruined hers and calling her spoiled beyond repair. So, I, 29F, got married last year to my husband, Evan, 31M. It was a small but beautiful ceremony at a historic garden. My dress wasn't some designer label or royal gown, but it was special to me. My mom and I spent months finding it. It was a perfect mix of simple, classic, and just a touch of sparkle. It cost about $1,200, which I know is a lot, but I paid for it myself and planned to preserve it as a keepsake. I had it professionally cleaned, packed, and stored carefully in my closet. My younger sister, Lila, 26F, got engaged this year. Lila has always been dramatic, the main character type. Growing up, she was the golden child, pretty, bubbly, always getting attention. I was the quieter one. We're not super close, but we've always been polite. Lila's wedding planning has been a chaotic spectacle from day one. She wants fairy tale vibes, which in her words means extravagant, emotional, and expensive. Her fiancé, Chris, 28M, is great but clearly overwhelmed by the endless Pinterest boards and sudden urgent changes. Their parents, our mom, and her fiancé, not our dad, have been funding most of it, but Lila keeps blowing past her budget. 2 weeks ago, Lila called me sobbing hysterically. Her custom-made designer wedding dress, apparently worth nearly $5,000, was destroyed. She had taken it to get altered, and when she picked it up, something went wrong. Long story short, she left it near a candle at home and the train caught fire. It wasn't a small burn. It melted part of the lace and tulle. The tailor said it couldn't be fixed without replacing half the dress. Lila was devastated. Naturally, I felt bad for her. That's a nightmare for any bride. I offered to help her look online for secondhand dresses or local boutiques with rush orders. But she wasn't listening. Instead, she said, "Actually, can I just wear your dress?" I was taken aback. I said, "Lila, my dress? For my wedding?" She said yes, and that it was basically perfect and would fit the theme. I told her I didn't think that was a good idea. She got annoyed and said, "You're already married. You don't need it anymore." I tried to stay calm and explained that the dress had a lot of sentimental value to me, and I didn't feel comfortable giving it up. She said she'd just borrow it and have it cleaned afterward. I still said no, because I know my sister. She's not exactly careful with other people's things. She blew up, accusing me of being selfish and unsupportive. She said, "You have no idea what I'm going through. My wedding is ruined, and you could help me fix it, but you just don't want me to look as good as you did." I hung up after telling her I wasn't changing my mind. Later, my mom called me. She said Lila was heartbroken and that I should consider letting her wear the dress just this once to save her big day. I reminded my mom that it's my personal property and that Lila's carelessness isn't my responsibility. Mom said I was holding a grudge and making it all about myself. I refused again and thought that was the end of it. But last weekend, I went to my parents' house for dinner. When I got home that night, my wedding dress was gone from my closet. I immediately checked the cameras we have in the entryway and saw Lila using the spare key I'd given my mom for emergencies. She had let herself in, taken the garment bag, and left. I was furious. I drove straight to her apartment. She wasn't home, but Chris was looking like he wanted to disappear. He admitted that Lila told him she was borrowing my dress because I had changed my mind. I took my dress back right then. When I unzipped the bag, my stomach dropped. It was wrinkled, the beading near the waistline had a few threads pulled, and the hem looked slightly dirty, like it had been dragged. I left before Lila came home and texted her that I got my dress back, and she had no right to steal it. She blew up my phone calling me names, jealous, bitter, childless, and that I ruined her vision. She said she's now going to wear a cheap white cocktail dress, and that everyone will know it's my fault. My mom tried to mediate again, saying I should have let it go, and that Lila only did what she did because she was desperate. My husband thinks Lila's behavior is insane and says I should block her until after the wedding. My dad, who's divorced from my mom, said Lila needs a wake-up call, and that he's proud I stood up for myself. Still, part of me feels guilty. It's just a dress, right? I'm not going to wear it again, and maybe I could have loaned it to her just to keep the peace. But I also feel deeply violated. She entered my house without permission, damaged something that meant a lot to me, and made me the villain in her meltdown. The tension in my family right now is awful. My mom keeps sending me passive-aggressive texts like, family should be there for each other, and one day you'll have a daughter and understand. Lila uninvited me from her bridal shower, which is fine by me, but she also posted a long rant on social media about fake sisters who hoard things and ruin weddings. Several of her friends commented calling me heartless. Even my aunt reached out to say maybe I could have handled it more gracefully. I don't know how much more gracefully I could have handled someone stealing from me. My husband wants to change the locks, and honestly, I'm considering it. Now the wedding is in 3 weeks. Lila still hasn't spoken to me directly since the incident. My mom said she might not even invite me now, which again, fine, but it hurts that I'm being painted as the villain. Was I wrong for refusing to lend her my wedding dress, knowing it would have meant a lot to her, even if she went about it terribly? Or is she really as entitled as I think she is? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé dictate how I parent my kids? So I, 34F, have two kids, 6 and 4. My brother, Sam, 32M, recently got engaged to his fiancée, Laura, 29F. They've been together for a little over a year, and while I like Laura personally, she has a very strong personality and is extremely controlling about things she considers important. Until recently, this mostly played out in her own life, but now it's starting to bleed into mine. A few months ago, Sam and Laura started visiting more often. Initially, it was fine. My kids love their uncle, and I don't mind company. But almost immediately, Laura started making comments about how I do things wrong with the kids. For example, she criticized the types of snacks I give them, saying they should only eat organic, gluten-free options. I don't have a dietary restriction philosophy as strict as hers, and my kids are healthy, so I just smiled and said thanks, but I didn't change anything. Then it escalated. During one visit, my 6-year-old had a minor meltdown over bedtime. Laura immediately jumped in, telling me I was being too harsh and that kids should never be forced into bedtime routines because it stifles creativity. I calmly told her that bedtime routines are non-negotiable in my house, and she shrugged and said, "Well, I guess that's your choice, but you're making it harder on them." Sam didn't intervene. The breaking point happened last weekend. Sam, Laura, and her family came over for a dinner gathering. My kids were playing in the living room, and Laura started handing them small toys and treats from her bag. I asked her not to give them things without asking because they were already hyped up from earlier snacks. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, they're fine. You're overreacting." I told her I was serious. Then she moved on to my kids' artwork. My 4-year-old had drawn a colorful, messy picture, and Laura immediately criticized it in front of everyone. She said things like, maybe if they learned proper techniques instead of scribbling, it would look better, and "You're not really encouraging them, are you?" I was furious, but I stayed calm and told her that they're just kids, and I'm proud of their creativity, and that criticizing them wasn't acceptable. After that, things got tense. Laura pulled Sam aside, and apparently, he told me later that she thinks I overreact and that I should loosen up and let her help guide the kids. I responded by saying that while I appreciate advice, I am their parent, and it is not her place to dictate how I raise them. Sam got quiet but didn't really argue. Now, Laura is upset with me. She has stopped coming over and has been sending passive-aggressive texts to Sam about how I alienate the family and don't appreciate help. Sam said he doesn't want to cause conflict, but he also doesn't think I'm wrong. A few family members have quietly said maybe I could be more open to her ideas, but I feel like if I start letting her dictate rules in my house, it will create chaos and undermine my authority with my own kids. To make matters more complicated, Laura also made a comment recently about my 6-year-old needing more structure in school activities, even suggesting switching schools. I told her that decisions about schooling are private and I will make them with Sam's input if needed, but not hers. She apparently told a few mutual friends that I'm very rigid and unwelcoming, which is now circulating in my family. I'm starting to feel like I'm the villain here because Laura thinks she's just trying to help and everyone is worried I might be too controlling. But from my perspective, she is consistently crossing boundaries in my home and undermining my parenting. My kids are happy, healthy, and thriving, and I feel like it's unfair for her to tell me how to raise them. So AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé dictate how I parent my kids, even if it means upsetting her and causing tension with my family. I've tried being polite and firm, but she doesn't seem to respect boundaries. I don't want to escalate this into a full-blown family feud, but I also don't want my kids to think it's okay for someone outside the immediate family to tell them how to behave. I'm willing to listen to reasonable advice, but I'm also very protective of my role as a parent. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because of a seating arrangement issue. So, this is going to be long, but I want to give the full context because the situation has spiraled in ways I never imagined. I, 28F, have a large extended family, and most of them live in the same city, though I moved across the country for work a few years ago. My cousin Jessica, 30F, is getting married next month, and the wedding is a big deal in our family. Jessica has always been the golden child, smart, charming, outgoing, and basically the center of attention in family gatherings. Me? Not so much. I've always felt like I exist in the background, which is fine, but I've learned to pick my battles. Anyway, a few months ago, Jessica sent out the wedding invites. Everything seemed normal at first, but a couple of weeks after RSVPing, my aunt, her mom, called me. She started off by saying she needed to clarify some things about the seating plan because there had been some family disagreements. I was confused but listened. Here's the thing. Jessica's wedding venue is large enough to accommodate everyone comfortably, but the tables are assigned, and she is really strict about it. My aunt told me that because of prior disagreements in the family, mostly over politics and lifestyle choices, Jessica had decided that I couldn't sit with any of my immediate cousins. That's fine, I thought, awkward but fine. What made it weird is that she had assigned me to a table with distant relatives I barely know, plus a few family friends who were basically strangers. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then I asked a couple of my cousins what they thought. They told me that Jessica had told everyone else that my attendance was optional, and that she wasn't expecting me to cause any family drama. I was blindsided. I hadn't done anything dramatic. I simply hadn't agreed with some opinions my cousins expressed at a holiday dinner last year. No yelling, no fighting, just politely disagreeing. I felt hurt and frustrated. Essentially, Jessica was punishing me for being myself, and on top of that, she was publicly implying that I was a potential problem at her wedding. So, I did what I normally do when I feel backed into a corner. I tried to reason with her. I sent a long message explaining that I was hurt, that I hadn't caused drama, and that while I understood wanting to keep seating peaceful, I thought the punishment was disproportionate. I also offered to sit at any table she preferred if it would make things easier. Her response shocked me. She said she appreciated my offer, but that her seating decisions were final, and that if I felt uncomfortable, it was okay for me to not attend. She added that she really hoped I would be mature enough to accept her decision. I was furious and hurt. I couldn't believe she framed me as the immature one when she had publicly made me feel like I didn't belong. I spoke to my parents about it, and they were split. My mom said I should just go, suck it up, and smile. After all, it's Jessica's big day. My dad, however, supported me, saying that if I felt humiliated or unwelcome, I had every right to skip the event. I wrestled with it for days. On one hand, I really love weddings and wanted to celebrate my cousin. On the other, I didn't want to attend an event where I felt deliberately excluded and labeled a troublemaker. Finally, I made the decision. I wouldn't go. I sent Jessica a message saying that I had thought long and hard, and while I was happy for her, I couldn't attend a wedding where I felt singled out and unwelcome. I tried to phrase it diplomatically, but I was firm. The backlash was immediate. Jessica's mom called me and cried, saying I was ruining family harmony and being selfish. Other relatives started texting me, some subtly shaming me, and others outright asking why I wouldn't just put my pride aside for one day. Jessica herself hasn't spoken to me since my message. Social media posts from the wedding without me started appearing, and some cousins made comments that were clearly aimed at me. I've been avoiding the family group chat altogether because it feels toxic. A few friends have told me I did the right thing, but I keep wondering if I overreacted. Part of me thinks I should have gone, sat quietly, and kept a low profile, even if it meant feeling uncomfortable. But another part of me feels that agreeing to be treated like a problem just to avoid confrontation is humiliating. I want to be clear. I'm not trying to start drama or ruin the wedding. I genuinely wanted to celebrate with my cousin, but being publicly sidelined and characterized as a potential problem just because I disagree with some people makes me feel like attending would reinforce that narrative. So, Reddit, AITA here. Am I overreacting by refusing to go to a family wedding over a seating issue? Or is it reasonable to stand up for myself when I feel deliberately excluded? I just don't know if I'm being stubborn or if my feelings are valid. This family rarely handles conflict well, so the silence and subtle shaming make it even harder to navigate. I thought skipping the wedding would preserve my dignity, but now I wonder if I've painted myself as the villain in a story I never wanted to be part of. Has anyone else faced a situation where attending meant being humiliated or singled out? How did you handle it? AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she asked me to? This is going to be long, so I'll try to give all the context. I, 32M, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, who has always been kind of entitled when it comes to family. Our parents are divorced, and while I have a close relationship with my dad, my mom has always been difficult and controlling. Emily tends to lean heavily on me financially and emotionally, and for a long time, I've tried to be supportive without enabling bad behavior. Emily got engaged about a year ago to a guy named Mark. From the beginning, she was very vocal about wanting a big, luxurious wedding, the kind of wedding you see in magazines with hundreds of guests, a high-end venue, and extravagant decorations. She's always had expensive tastes, which is fine, but I've known from experience that her expectations are unrealistic given her budget. She works as a graphic designer and makes a decent living, but she has a lot of debt and doesn't save much. I, on the other hand, have a good job in tech, and I've been able to save steadily, but I am careful with my money. About 6 months ago, Emily brought up the subject of contributions. At first, she hinted that our parents might help, but when that didn't seem like it would cover everything, she dropped the bomb. She wanted me to pay for a large portion of the wedding. She claimed that it's customary for siblings to help, and that I could cover the decorations and catering because it wouldn't be that much for someone like me. I was floored. I've attended weddings before, including my sister's friends' weddings, and yes, siblings sometimes help with minor things, but she was basically asking me to fund half of her dream wedding. I told her that I wasn't comfortable covering the wedding expenses. I reminded her that we had our own finances and responsibilities, and while I was happy to help in small ways, paying for an extravagant wedding was beyond what I could reasonably do. She got upset and accused me of being selfish and not supporting her. She said I didn't care about her happiness and that I was being cheap with my money. The tension grew over the next few months. She started passive-aggressively pointing out the things I could pay for, like, "Oh, you could totally get a nice cake for everyone, right? Or I know you have that bonus coming. It could cover a few of the flowers." I tried to stay firm, and I even offered some alternatives, helping with DIY projects, designing invitations, or lending equipment for photography. She rejected all of it, insisting that those things weren't enough and that I needed to step up. As the wedding planning continued, things escalated. Emily invited a lot of people I barely knew or had only met once. When I asked her why she was including so many distant acquaintances, she said it was expected to have a massive guest list. I tried to explain that my financial contribution was not going to stretch to hundreds of people, but she said, "You're not even thinking about how much it would mean to me if you helped." Family supports each other. It felt manipulative, but I didn't want to cause a huge family fight. I finally drew a hard line about 2 months ago. I told Emily that I would attend the wedding, help with some minor things, and be there for her emotionally, but I would not be paying for anything beyond what I could comfortably afford, like a gift and maybe some personal touches. She reacted very badly. She cried, yelled, and even accused me of favoritism, saying that she felt like I was letting our parents off the hook while I was throwing money at other people's weddings. I tried to explain that I help people based on my own budget and priorities, not as some sort of competition, but she wasn't having it. Since then, my relationship with her has been strained. Our parents have tried to mediate, but my mom said I was being ridiculous and should just pay for it because it's my sister's special day. My dad is more supportive and said it's reasonable to set boundaries. Emily has started giving me the silent treatment and posting vague messages on social media about family members who don't care. The wedding is in a few weeks, and she has started bringing up the money again, implying that I should still cover the catering or venue if I truly care about her. I feel trapped because I don't want to ruin her day or make her feel abandoned, but I also feel strongly that I should not be financially responsible for her choices. I've even offered to pay for small things I can afford, like the bouquet or helping set up, but she acts like that's insulting. I understand weddings are expensive and stressful, but I also know that everyone has to take responsibility for what they can afford. I'm worried that if I give in now, she'll expect even more, and it will set a precedent for future events or crises. I don't want to be the bank for my family, and it feels wrong for her to pressure me this way. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding. I love her, and I want to celebrate her marriage, but I refuse to be coerced into spending beyond my means for something that isn't mine to fund. AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister move into our house, even though she's family and has nowhere else to go. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, 36M, for 8 years. We have a comfortable life now, but it hasn't always been easy. We both came from pretty modest backgrounds, and for the first few years of our marriage, we struggled financially. We saved, budgeted, and worked long hours to buy our home 4 years ago. It's not a mansion, but it's ours, and we're proud of it. My husband's younger sister, Kara, 29F, has always been chaotic for lack of a better word. She's bounced from job to job, apartment to apartment, and relationship to relationship since she was 18. Every time something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault. Her boss was toxic, her landlord was unfair, her boyfriend was controlling. She's been evicted twice, crashed 2 cars, both gifts from their parents, and constantly asked for small loans that never get paid back. Over the years, we've tried to help her in small ways. Paying a bill once when her electricity was shut off, helping her apply for jobs, even letting her stay on our couch for a week while she waited for a new apartment lease. That week turned into almost a month, and it was miserable. She didn't clean up after herself, ate our groceries without asking, left makeup stains on towels, and had friends over without permission. When we finally asked her to leave, she cried and accused us of abandoning her like everyone else. It was extremely uncomfortable, and we both agreed, never again. Fast forward to last month. Kara called my husband crying because she broke up with her latest boyfriend and he kicked her out of his apartment. She claimed she had nowhere to go and asked if she could stay with us for a little while, just until she figures things out. My husband immediately looked at me with that pleading face he gets when he wants me to be the bad guy. I told him I'd talk to him privately, and after we hung up, I said absolutely not. He argued that she's his sister and that she's really going through it right now. I reminded him of what happened last time she stayed with us. He said, "That was years ago. She's more mature now." I pointed out that mature people don't call their sibling crying because they've been kicked out for the 3rd time in 2 years. We went back and forth for days. He kept saying it would only be a few weeks, and I kept saying we've heard that before. I told him that if Kara moved in, I'd end up being the one managing her mess, cleaning, setting boundaries, dealing with drama, because that's exactly what happened last time. I work full-time and value the peace of our home. Eventually, I told him that if he insisted on helping her, he could do it without bringing her into our house. I even suggested we pay for a cheap motel for 2 weeks or help her find a roommate situation. He said that was cold and heartless. A few days later, I came home from work and found Kara sitting on our couch with 2 suitcases. I froze. She smiled awkwardly and said, "Hey, thanks for letting me stay." I turned to my husband, who looked guilty, and said, "I didn't know what else to do." She was crying and had nowhere to go. I was furious. I pulled him into the kitchen and said he completely crossed a line. He promised it would only be a few days, but I reminded him I never agreed to this. I told Kara that night that she could stay for 3 nights, no more. In those 3 days, history repeated itself. She slept in late, left dishes everywhere, borrowed my hair products, and even ordered takeout using my DoorDash account, apparently logged in from my iPad. When I confronted her, she said, "I thought you wouldn't mind, since you guys are doing well." On day 3, I reminded her that she needed to leave the next morning. She pouted and said she had nowhere lined up yet, and asked for a few more days. I said no. My husband started arguing with me again, saying I was being unreasonable because she's family. I told him that if he wanted to live with her so badly, maybe he should go with her. He called me cruel. The next morning, I told Kara I was serious. She needed to leave. She cried again, called me heartless, and said she couldn't believe I'd throw her out like trash. My husband tried to mediate, but I told him I wasn't negotiating anymore. I even packed her bags and called her a cab to a budget motel, which I paid for 2 nights just to avoid guilt. Since then, my husband has been distant. He says he understands my point, but can't believe I actually kicked her out. He's been sleeping in the guest room for the past week. His mom called me, furious, saying I humiliated Kara and should have had more compassion. She said, "If it were your sister, wouldn't you want someone to take her in?" Here's the thing. My sister has had hard times, but she's a responsible adult who communicates and doesn't take advantage of people. Kara, on the other hand, creates chaos and expects everyone else to fix it. I've told my husband countless times that I won't be the cleanup crew for his family's dysfunction. It's caused a real rift in our marriage. He says I made him choose between his sister and me, which isn't true. I just enforced a boundary that he didn't like. I told him if he can't respect that, maybe he needs to stay with Kara himself until he figures out what he wants. Now I'm wondering if I really did go too far. I hate being the villain, and I know Kara's life is a mess. But I also feel like I've spent years watching her burn bridges and expecting us to be her safety net. I don't want that to be my life. I want peace in my own home. So, AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister move in and kicking her out when he went behind my back. AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister move into our home even though she's family. And now, everyone says I'm heartless? So my husband and I, both 33, have been married for 5 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter, Ellie, and we both work full-time. I'm a nurse, and my husband, Mark, is a high school teacher. We live in a small but comfortable 3-bedroom house. It's not fancy, but it's ours, and we worked hard for it. The 3rd bedroom is my office/guest room. Because of my job, I sometimes have to chart or take calls at odd hours, so it's nice to have a private space. Mark's younger sister, Anna, 28, has always been kind of the wild one. She's never held a steady job for more than a few months, and she tends to bounce from place to place, living with friends, boyfriends, or their parents. She's fun in small doses, but she's chaotic. She's the type of person who'll start drama at a baby shower or borrow your car and forget to fill the tank. 2 months ago, Anna broke up with her boyfriend, who also happened to be her landlord. So, she suddenly had nowhere to go. Mark's parents live in a 1-bedroom condo in Florida, so they couldn't help. Naturally, Anna called Mark and asked if she could stay just for a few weeks while she gets back on her feet. When Mark brought it up to me, my immediate reaction was no. We've been down this road before. A few years ago, Anna stayed with us for a month, which turned into 5. She didn't pay rent, barely helped around the house, constantly smoked weed in the garage, even though we asked her not to. We have a kid, and she left the place a mess when she finally moved out. I reminded Mark of that, but he insisted this time would be different. He said she was more mature now, and that she really just needs a safe place for a little while. I told him I wasn't comfortable with it. I said I didn't want to expose Ellie to Anna's unpredictable moods and irresponsible behavior again. I also said our home isn't a crash pad every time it screws up. Mark looked really disappointed, but said he understood. A few days later, I came home from a long shift to find Anna sitting on our couch with her suitcases. Apparently, she'd called Mark crying, saying she was literally homeless, and he couldn't say no. I was furious. Mark swore it was just for a week until she could find another place. Against my better judgment, I agreed, on the condition that she follow basic house rules. No smoking in or around the house, no guests, and she helps clean up after herself. That lasted all of 3 days. She started leaving dishes everywhere, blasting music late at night, and one morning I caught her vaping in the bathroom. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes and said I was uptight. Then she started inviting her friends over during the day while Mark and I were at work. I came home once to find 2 strangers on my couch watching Netflix, and Anna shrugged and said they were just chilling while she ran to get groceries. I told Mark this was unacceptable. He agreed, but asked me to just hold on because Anna was looking at apartments. I asked if she'd actually applied anywhere, and he admitted she hadn't. That night, I had a long, ugly fight with Mark. I told him I felt like he was choosing his sister's comfort over our home and our family's peace. He said I was being cruel and unsympathetic because Anna doesn't have anyone else. I told him that's not my fault, and it doesn't make it my responsibility to fix her life. 2 weeks passed, and nothing changed. Anna was still there, still freeloading, still making the house chaotic. Ellie started waking up in the middle of the night, because Anna's friends were laughing loudly in the kitchen at 1 a.m. One morning, I came downstairs to find one of Anna's friends passed out on the couch. I completely lost it. I woke Anna up and told her she and her friend had until that evening to pack their stuff and leave. She started crying, saying I was throwing her out on the street. Mark tried to calm me down, but I told him I was done. I called my brother, who owns a duplex nearby, and asked if he had any short-term rentals open. He did. I offered to pay Anna's first 2 weeks there just to get her out of my house. When I told Anna, she screamed that I was a controlling witch and that I hate her because she's not perfect like me. She stormed out that night, slamming the door so hard it cracked part of the frame. Mark was livid. He said I humiliated his sister and kicked her out like garbage. I told him I gave her a solution, paid for it, even, and that he needed to stop enabling her. He slept on the couch for a week after that. Now it's been about a month since Anna left, and while our home feels peaceful again, the fallout has been awful. Mark's parents called me and said they were disappointed in how I treated Anna, that family helps family, and that I should have been more patient. Anna's been telling everyone that I threw her out in the cold. Even some of our mutual friends said I could have handled it with more compassion. But I don't feel guilty. I feel relieved. The other night, though, Mark told me he still hasn't fully forgiven me for kicking out his sister without letting him handle it. I told him he had weeks to handle it, and he didn't. He said I should have respected that it was his sister, not mine, and let him make the call. Now I'm wondering if I was too harsh. Maybe I should have given her more time or been less confrontational. But I also feel like if I hadn't put my foot down, she'd still be living here, mooching off us indefinitely. So, AITA for refusing to let my husband's sister live with us, and for kicking her out when she wouldn't follow our rules. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.